Imagine this. You work 40 hours a week. You don't splurge, you budget. You do everything right. Yet your bank account is in the red, your rent just jumped another $300, and you're one medical bill away from disaster. That's not bad luck. That's America in 2025. Poverty isn't just a statistic anymore. It's a creeping reality swallowing the working and middle class. And the scariest part? It's not just affecting the unemployed. It's hitting the people doing everything they were told would make them secure. Poverty in America isn't some abstract problem. It's your neighbor, your coworker, maybe it's you. And no, it's not just about laziness or bad decisions. In fact, for millions of Americans, poverty is the direct result of policies, prices, and a broken system stacked against the average citizen. Today, we're going deep. We're going to talk about why more Americans, including full-time workers and college grads, are being pushed into poverty, what the numbers say, what the media avoids telling you, and most importantly, what this means for your future. Let's step back and look at the broader economic architecture that's quietly shaped the current crisis. The roots of today's poverty wave didn't begin in 2020, or even in 2008. This was a slow erosion, decades in the making. A silent collapse of the American middle class camouflaged behind consumer gadgets, credit cards, and artificially inflated stock market highs. Post-World War II, America entered a golden age. Wages grew with productivity. A factory worker could buy a home, raise a family, and retire with dignity. Labor unions were strong. Corporate taxes were high. The top 1% didn't control everything. But then, something shifted. Quietly at first, then violently. In the 1970s, real wages began to stagnate. Productivity kept rising, but the average worker didn't see the benefits. In the 1980s, the Reagan Revolution slashed taxes for the wealthy, deregulated industries, and demonized unions. Wall Street became king, and Main Street was left to rot. What followed was a systematic dismantling of the mechanisms that once protected working-class Americans. Pensions gave way to risky 401ks, full-time jobs turned into gig work, and the social safety net was slowly shredded under the guise of personal responsibility. Now fast forward to today, and that erosion is a gaping hole. The wealth gap between the richest and the rest has exploded. The top 1% now owns more wealth than the entire middle class combined. Meanwhile, half of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And poverty? It's not just hitting the unemployed or the homeless. It's hitting school teachers, delivery drivers, nurses, people who are working full-time, even overtime, yet still drowning. Still, let's talk numbers. According to the Economic Policy Institute, since 1979, productivity has grown by nearly 70%, while hourly pay for the average American worker rose by just 12%. Think about that. You're working harder, producing more value, but your paycheck barely budges. Where did that value go? It went to shareholders, CEOs, and hedge fund managers. The system was re-engineered to reward capital, not labor. Housing is the most glaring symptom. Renters across the country are now paying more than 30%, sometimes 50% of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. In cities like Los Angeles or Miami, even low-income housing is unaffordable to low-income earners. Home ownership, once a cornerstone of the American dream, is now a fantasy for many millennials and Gen Zers, priced out by investor-driven housing markets where private equity firms buy up entire neighborhoods and flip them into short-term rentals. Then there's healthcare, the silent killer of financial stability. One trip to the emergency room without insurance can bankrupt a family. Even with insurance, high deductibles and copays bleed people dry. And while this happens, insurance executives make tens of millions annually. In what sane society does your ability to live depend on your job status or your zip code? And education? We were sold a lie, that college was the ticket out of poverty. But the cost of tuition has quadrupled since the 1980s. Student debt now exceeds $1.7 trillion. Millions of graduates carry crushing loans into their 30s and 40s, unable to start families, buy homes, or build wealth. They did what they were told, and they're poorer for it. But this isn't just about dollars. Poverty has a psychological toll that's hard to measure but easy to feel. It's the anxiety that never leaves. The fear when your phone rings. Is it a bill collector? The shame of telling your kid no again. The exhaustion of navigating a bureaucracy that treats you like a burden instead of a human being. Poverty robs people of their time, their peace, their dignity. And worst of all, it convinces them that they are to blame. Let me tell you something uncomfortable. Poverty is profitable. Don't think for a second that no one benefits from this suffering. Payday lenders, rent-to-own stores, and check-cashing places thrive in poor neighborhoods. Pharmaceutical companies make fortunes off stress, anxiety, and depression, all poverty-related epidemics. Even prisons have been privatized, turning incarceration into an industry that feeds on the poor and marginalized. Poverty is not a glitch in the system. It is a feature of the system, a design that creates desperation so that others can exploit it. And the media? They tell sanitized stories of job growth and rising GDP, while ignoring the fact that most new jobs are low-wage, insecure, and without benefits. They'll show stock market highs, but not the 40-year-old Uber driver with a college degree who lives in his car. They'll talk about inflation coming down, but not the fact that food prices are still 25% higher than before the pandemic, or that landlords are hiking rent faster than wages can keep up. Look at rural America, once full of factory jobs and small-town economies. Now, decimated by outsourcing, flooded with opioids, and abandoned by politicians who only show up during election years. The poverty in these areas is not just financial, it's existential. It's a slow decay of hope. And urban poverty? It's no longer about just bad neighborhoods. It's about working full-time in a major city and still being priced out of safe housing. It's about food deserts in communities where the nearest grocery store is a 45-minute bus ride away. It's about kids growing up in public schools with 30-year-old textbooks and no air conditioning, expected to compete with kids in wealthy suburbs who have laptops, tutors, and therapy on demand. And then there's inflation, the great equalizer of misery. The Fed's interest rate hikes, meant to tame inflation, have made everything more expensive to borrow. Mortgages, credit cards, car loans. So now, not only are your groceries more expensive, but your debt is too. And when inflation slows, it doesn't mean prices go back down. It just means they're rising a little less quickly. The damage is done. Poverty is now multi-generational. Kids born into poor households face higher risks of poor nutrition, limited education, and fewer job prospects. And the cycle continues. In many cases, your zip code is more predictive of your life expectancy than your genetic code. That's not just unfair, that's criminal. And yet, corporate America thrives. Profits are up. Bonuses are flowing. Executives pat themselves on the back for efficiency while cutting labor costs and outsourcing jobs overseas. It's not that there's no money. It's that the money is hoarded at the top. Do you know what the real poverty line is? The official US poverty threshold for a family of 4 is around $30,000. That's absurd. In most urban centers, that doesn't even cover rent. The real poverty line, the income you need just to survive without government help, is closer to $50,000 or $60,000 in many parts of the country. So millions of Americans technically aren't poor, but they're broke. Struggling, one emergency away from collapse, away. And while all this happens, corporate lobbyists flood Washington with billions in campaign donations to ensure the status quo remains untouched. Minimum wage laws don't pass. Affordable housing initiatives get gutted, tax breaks flow upward, and the people most affected are too busy working, surviving, or burnt out to fight back. It's not that America doesn't have the resources to fix poverty, it's that there's no political will. During the pandemic, the government proved it could send monthly checks to families and reduce child poverty dramatically. But when the emergency faded, those supports vanished, and poverty roared back. What does that tell you? That poverty isn't inevitable. It's a choice, a policy decision. And every day those in power choose not to act. They choose to let millions suffer. And here's the part no one likes to admit. Poverty is spreading upward. It's not just the bottom 10% anymore. It's the middle 40%. People with college degrees, 2 incomes, health insurance, still barely making it. This isn't about being lazy. It's about the cost of everything rising faster than the value of labor. People are tired. Tired of being gaslit by politicians who claim the economy is booming, while their savings disappear. Tired of being told to just work harder, when they already work 60 hours a week. Tired of being blamed for a crisis they didn't create. Poverty in America is no longer a fringe issue. It's a mainstream reality. And if we don't acknowledge that, if we keep believing that hard work alone is enough, if we keep worshiping the myth of meritocracy, then we're just marching deeper into a future where even the fortunate live in fear, and the rest are forgotten entirely. The American dream isn't dead. It's being auctioned off piece by piece, And unless we recognize that, call it out, and demand real change, we'll wake up one day and find that we're all poor. Not just in money, but in time, spirit, and possibility. So what can you do if you're feeling this squeeze? First, track your spending ruthlessly. Know where every dollar is going. Budgeting won't fix the system, but it can help you stay afloat. Second, get real about side income. This isn't hustle culture hype. In today's economy, relying on one job is financially dangerous. Even an extra $200 month can make a difference. Third, vote with your wallet and your ballot. Support businesses that treat workers well. Demand leaders who prioritize economic justice, not corporate tax breaks. And finally, don't blame yourself. Poverty in today's America is systemic. You're not alone, and that matters. Just last week, a new report from the U.S. Census Bureau confirmed what many feared. The supplemental poverty measure jumped from 7.8% to over 12% in just 1 year. Major cities are witnessing historic homelessness spikes. Food banks are overwhelmed. And despite the economic recovery the media loves to hype, the reality for most Americans is grim. At the same time, corporate profits hit all-time highs. CEOs took home record bonuses. And Congress? They went on recess without addressing any of it. This isn't a crisis, it's an emergency, and it's spreading. I want to leave you with a story. A single mom in Ohio works 2 jobs. One as a server, one as a cashier. She sleeps 4 hours a night. Still, she can't afford rent, so she and her 2 kids sleep in her car. But every morning, she shows up, puts on a smile, and tries again. That's not failure, that's heroism. But no one should have to be a hero just to survive. America is at a crossroads. And if we don't fix the gap between wages and reality, poverty won't just affect others. It will come for all of us. It's already knocking. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this helpful or interesting, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want to see more content like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss a thing. I'd love to hear your thoughts, experiences, or any questions you have in the comments section below. Let's keep the conversation going. Thanks again for your support, and I'll see you in the next video.